The Secret Misses. Chapter 1101. Awkward. He would not have been treated this badly if Theo had not gotten a girlfriend so soon. He still had a friend in him before and could still use Theo as his shield. But not anymore. He really had to speed up his game to get closer to Willow. As he was about to go and look for Willow, a guy suddenly dragged him aside and asked excitedly, "Master Jake, is that girl in the corner your friend? What's her name? Where's she from? What do you want?" Jake glanced at him suspiciously. This guy was an infamous Casanova in Imperial and changed girlfriends as often as he changed his clothes. Worst of all, he loved to mess with other people's girlfriends. Gary raised his eyebrows. "Of course, I'm interested. You know I like that type of chick." Jake sipped some wine to contain his annoyance. "You don't have to know who she is. All I'll say is don't mess with trouble." Gary exclaimed, "Hey, don't jinx me. It's normal for a guy to be attracted to such a beautiful lady." Jake said without any expression, "She's taken." "So what? There's no girl in Imperial that I wouldn't dare to flirt with." Gary then courageously walked towards Luna's direction. Somewhere nearby, Willow was talking to Theo. She wore a black Chanel gown in her usual simple and elegant style, but her expression looked tired. Willow looked at the man in front of her and spoke slowly, "Theo, I'm sorry for what happened last time. I lost control of my emotions. I should have said something before I left. I understand what you're trying to say. You're the most compatible man I've ever met and I once thought that we could spend the rest of our lives together. But there is still a long way to go and too many things are simply unpredictable. It's regrettable but I respect your decision." Willow then smiled with poise. "So, we're still friends, right?" Without a doubt, this was the best way for her to move forward right now. She had forced herself not to look for him during this period of time. She thought that if she stepped back, Theo would not reject her this time. Theo glanced at her, then said with his usual cold expression, "I'm sorry. To avoid any further misunderstandings with my girlfriend, we really shouldn't contact each other anymore." Willow's face froze. She did not expect Theo's reply. His words had completely disregarded her. Willow looked hurt and her voice trembled. "Theo, we've known each other for about 20 years. I understand that you have someone you love, but I already declared that I will leave you. Are you going to give up our friendship for a woman you haven't known for very long?" "She's not just a woman I haven't known for long. She's my future wife." Theo then coldly looked at her with a warning glare and Willow felt a chill run down her spine. Chapter 1102. After Theo finished his conversation with Willow, his eyes moved to Luna and he noticed that Gary sat opposite her. The man's cold expression changed slightly. He excused himself from Willow and headed towards Luna. The Stu family's little garden was really pretty with had a pleasant view. The corner Luna was sitting in had vines around it with flowers sprouting from it. Beside her was a pond reflecting the full moon. What was more beautiful than the view was the person under it. Yet, the person was only focused on Theo and Willow. What were they talking about? It was taking really long. Damn it. Many young men or parents like Benjamin, who intended to look for a girl for their sons, all noticed Luna. However, before they could make a move, they all saw the infamous flirt walking towards her. As they saw Gary in hunting mode, they hoped that this innocent-looking little girl would not be fooled by him. He actually came from a pretty prestigious family in Imperial. Although he was capable, he always indulged himself with lustful deeds. As Luna was wondering what Theo and Willow were talking about, a man had suddenly walked up to her. "Hi there, is there anyone sitting here?" The man wore a fitting English three-piece suit, looking rather retro and cool. His looks were above average, but his lustful eyes were a huge turn-off to Luna. Nevertheless, no matter what the man did, it did not concern her, so Luna kept on looking at Theo. Without looking at the man, she replied, "Yes." Gary was a little taken aback but quickly smiled. "You're really good at joking, I've been watching you for a while. You seem to be here alone." Luna was speechless at his nerve to ask something he already knew. Gary noticed that Luna was not reacting to him, but that got even more excited. His eyes were like a radar, scanning every inch of Luna. Gary was way more knowledgeable than women in girly stuff, and he soon found a topic to approach her about. "Is your dress from Spirit?" Luna reacted a little when she heard the brand name. "Yes, why?" Gary got his chance and he beamed proudly before continuing with the topic. "This is just a normal ready-made dress, isn't it?" "Correct." Luna nodded and was waiting to see what he would say next. "I'm guessing you weren't able to get a custom-made piece?" "I heard that Spirit's list of custom-made dresses has a waiting line of 6 months now. It's really difficult to get one, but I know someone on the inside. If you'd like, I can help you." Gary tried to make himself appeal to Luna. Luna smiled benevolently. "No way. I didn't do anything to deserve that." Gary's pride swelled when he felt that he had a chance. "You're too humble, Mississippi. For a beauty like you, simply existing is hard work." He then scanned the girl's gentle eyes, her neat nose, cherry-like lips, and the gentle swell of her hips. Chapter 1103. The girl's outfit was quite reserved, as the dress was longer than her knee and the collar was high around her neck as well, but she was emitting an aura that made him excited. What a real hottie. Gary decided that he had to get this girl for himself, entirely forgetting Jake's warning to him. "Oh, I don't know your name yet. How should I address you?" "My surname's Wang, I'm Gary," Gary asked as he inched closer to Luna. Gary thought his flirting skills were top-notch, but Luna rolled her eyes so hard that she could practically see her brain. What was this? He was the best flirt in Imperial? With this sort of standard? She looked at the devil who was slowly ambling towards her. After a long, happy chat with his childhood friend, finally, he was coming over. Gary was really attracted to how Luna gazed in a different direction when speaking to him. How seductive. At the same time, Luna smiled and answered Gary, "I go by the surname Ning now, but it's going to be Goldberg in the future." Theo had an aggressive expression on his face, but after he heard her, his eyes turned gentle. Goldberg. What a great reply. As expected of his wife. "Oh. Which Goldberg?" Gary asked. "Theo," Luna replied. Luna was staring at Theo for quite some time. Gary understood her and grinned coldly. "Heh, Miss Brown, you're really greedy, aren't you?" "Why not? I've decided that I'll not marry anyone apart from Theo." Gary almost laughed out loud. Every girl in Imperial wants to become Mrs. Goldberg. Do you think you can really do it? Why don't you have a more realistic goal? As he spoke, he tried to extend his hand towards Luna. Suddenly, Theo came in between the two of them. "Hey. CEO Theo, you." Gary was a little surprised as he thought that Theo was here to talk to him. However, the man did not even look at him. He focused on the girl opposite him with a gentle gaze and a doting tone. "We'll go back together later." Luna nodded with a big smile. Okay. This short conversation was impactful enough to give Gary a good fright. The both of them, what was happening? Could it be? Well, CEO Theo, As Gary realized what their relationship was, his soul almost left him. He just stared at the man blindly. Theo glanced at him murderously, then left without saying a word. Although it was just a short glance, Gary felt like he had experienced a brief moment of death. After Theo left, Gary looked at Luna. "Why you, and Theo?" Chapter 1104. Luna smiled coyly. "It's exactly as you think it is." Gary was speechless. Gary quickly went to Jake. "Damn you, Jake. Why didn't you tell me that girl is Theo's woman? Didn't I tell you earlier?" Jake saw that the man was panting and sweating like he had been chased by a beast. "When?" Gary almost broke down. "I told you to not mess with trouble." "Think. Just how many people could give you trouble in Imperial?" "You'd know after some careful deduction," said Jake as a matter of factly. Gary freaked out. "Oh no. What should I do? I actually flirted with Theo's woman. Should I buy something for her as an apology? She seems to like Spirit's clothes. Should I buy her a few? Jake stared at him like he was an idiot. That girl is the owner of Spirit. Gary was once again speechless. From an outsider's point of view, they had seen Gary flirting with the girl and then, Theo walked over. As it was a corner, everyone could only see Theo's back as he blocked Luna, so everyone thought Theo had said something to Gary. The supposed Casanova ran away like that corner of the room was haunted. What exactly did Theo say to him? Still, there were also people who understood what had happened. Ha ha ha. Gary is really looking for trouble. He even flirted with Theo's woman. Ling Fei roared. Most people did not know what had happened because only a few people who were close to Theo knew the girl's identity. Zhao Haixing held his wife close. But you can't blame Gary. Who would have thought a girl here would turn out to be Theo's girlfriend? Speaking of which, do Theo and Miss Brown plan to keep their relationship hidden? Ling Fei asked. I heard that because of Miss Brown's career, they can't publicize their relationship. Zhao Haixing said. Ling Fei looked at the girl's direction. I actually think this girl is pretty nice. If any other female celebrity were to hook up with Theo, she would surely announce it to the whole world. Do you know Millie from Glory World Entertainment? She's totally unrelated to Theo, but she always calls herself Mrs. Goldberg or Theo's true love. But in truth, Theo probably doesn't even know who she is. That's true. Although we've just met twice, she's pretty nice and quite special, always scaring us with her stunts, ha ha ha. At a quiet corner in the garden, Thomas was holding a wine glass, looking absent-mindedly in the direction of the pond. Willow looked nervous. Father, are you sure that this method is really okay? Thomas sipped some wine. There are a lot of government officials among the guests today. There's even a personnel from the law department and Judge Liang is also here. If she killed someone here, even Theo can't help her. While he might be able to spare her from death, do you think a murderer could ever enter the Goldberg family? Chapter 1105. Willow frowned and looked at the woman in white talking to Luna. There's no issue on Lucy's side. If she doesn't die, she will surely die. Thomas's eyes flashed with the intention to kill. If she did not die, he had already arranged for his own people to take care of it at the hospital. Nothing would go wrong. It was her first time getting involved in matters related to a person's life. Willow's fingers were shaking with nervousness, but she quickly calmed down. She was just trying to stop the woman from continuing to fool Theo. What she was doing was not wrong. Her plans had failed so many times. There could not be any more accidents this time. Extreme situations require extreme measures. This time, she would make sure there was no turning back for Luna. She forgot all about her worries the moment she was reminded of Theo's coldness towards her. Thomas patted his daughter's shoulder firmly. Go and prepare yourself. It's our turn to show up soon. Call your uncle and auntie too. Let them see Luna kill someone for themselves. Now, that would be interesting. Yes, father. After Gary was terrified away by the devil, Luna was finally alone. She picked up some fish food and was stood by the pond, tossing the pellets in. A big school of red koi fish rushed over, fighting for the food. Luna suddenly thought of the glutton Cleo, so she snapped a picture of the fishes and sent it to him. As she was feeding the fishes happily, there was the sound of footsteps behind her suddenly. Luna thought that it was another guy trying to flirt with her. As she raised her head, she saw a strange and frail girl in a long, white dress. The girl had makeup on, but it could not hide her pale and weak state. Luna analyzed her longer, wanting to ascertain that she did not know her. She was not sure why the girl was there, so she waited quietly to see what she wanted to do. The girl looked at Luna like she was trash and she smiled coldly. So, you're Luna. Your face is thicker than the Great Wall. A cheap girl like you trying to get into the Goldberg family? Luna raised her eyebrows. Although this girl looked weak, her mouth was anything but. However, I'm sure that I don't know this girl. What's happening? Something's wrong. It smells fishy. As Luna was guessing the girl's intentions, the girl started uttering more and more ridiculous words. Do you think you can hide the fact that you're just a village girl by dressing like a model? You're just a lowlife. Who do you think you are? You motherless thing. With that last sentence, Luna squinted her eyes and emitted a lethal aura. The girl became more motivated when she saw Luna's reaction, so she kept on provoking her. Who doesn't know how complicated the entertainment industry is? You're just another filthy slut. Stop acting innocent. You witch. The girl in the white dress did not expect Luna to be able to suppress herself this well and not get angry at her yet. She then splashed the glass of red wine she was holding onto Luna. Luna's face and hair were all dripping with wine. Her clothes were all drenched as well. She looked like a mess and her eyes were filled with darkness. Chapter 1106. The girl in white dress looked gleeful. Now, she would finally attack her. The girl became more aggressive, pushing Luna by her shoulders. You witch. How dare you glare at me? And yet, the girl did not expect what happened next. She had just lightly pushed Luna, but Luna's body was like a stray kite that weighed nothing. She fell into the pond. How did this happen? It should be Luna who pushed her into the pond. How did the roles get reversed? What made it worse was that the moment Luna was pushed into the pond, Willow came over while clinging onto Margaret's arm. Matthew and Jake's parents were together with them as well, chatting as they strolled over. At the exact same moment, Luna fell into the pond with a loud splash. All of them saw it. Some of the servants nearby saw someone falling into the water, so they yelled, "Arg! Someone fell into the water! Someone fell into the water! A lady fell into the water! Quickly save her!" Margaret and Matthew were shocked. What happened? The person who had fallen into the water just now looked like Luna. Someone. Anyone good at swimming? Please save her. Benjamin quickly pleaded for help. Suddenly, someone jumped into the pond. Ah! CEO Theo went in. A servant yelled, "Be careful, CEO Theo." Theo. Margaret's face turned pale. Matthew's expression changed slightly. Don't worry, Theo is a good swimmer. Benjamin did not expect something like this to happen. This pond is pretty deep and there are some big rocks under the water. It's dangerous. I'll go too. Jake was about to dive into the pond but a few servants stopped him. Master, it's dangerous. The security guards are here. Willow did not expect the person to fall into the pond not to be the arranged person, so she was dumbfounded. Thomas looked furious as well as he glared at the girl in white dress. The girl was in shock. She trembled when she felt Thomas's dagger stare on her. At the same time, under the pond, Theo felt a hand brush against his, so he quickly dragged the girl towards him. As he was about to bring her up, the girl stopped him, tracing on his palm with her finger, "Cooperate with me." Others might not know it but Theo was sure that with Luna's ability, a weak girl would never be able to push her into the pond and no one would pick this day to hurt Luna. There was only one possibility. Luna had fallen into the pond herself. Although he guessed it before he dove in, he was still shocked and had jumped into the pond to get her, afraid of any accidents that might happen. Now, the girl had finally informed him about her stunt. Theo angrily pinched the girl's waist and her eyes flew wide open as if she was complaining, "Hey. I almost can't hold my breath in, no thanks to your pinch." Chapter 1107. After she shot him a look and reciprocated by biting on Theo's lip, she continued to use her finger to write on his palm, "Stay with me." Luna did not understand the reason why that woman in the white dress had incessantly provoked her like a maniac at first. The moment she had splashed the glass of wine at her, she had almost retaliated physically. Thankfully, she reacted at the key moment and decided to make a move first by turning the tables. Pfft! You want to trick me with that bad acting of yours? I'll trick you right back. Theo comprehended Luna's thoughts. There were obviously many other ways to solve this problem, but this girl had to always make it so exciting. This time, it had even happened right before his eyes. He did not know what to say anymore. When he was opposite the pond, even though he had to continue entertaining all the guests that came up to him with small talk, he always left a sliver of his attention on Luna. Luna was feeding the fishes at first, then a girl in a white dress started speaking to her with her back against him. Then, the next scene had happened before he could react. Actually, Luna knew that she could have moved away when she realized the other person's intentions, but that would be to their advantage. She really wanted to, at least, bite them back, so she did. This was not over. Just as Theo and Luna were being lovey-dovey down there, the people on the lakeshore had gone crazy. My God, my God. What to do? Why hasn't Theo come up yet? Don't worry. Security is here. Willow was getting impatient at this point. She immediately shot a look at the woman in the white dress. If this woman was caught and had the gall to reveal her, they would be done for. Even if she did not, they would not be able to get themselves off the hook. Because Lucy was a distant relative of the Kingston. She could only turn up for this banquet because she had especially asked Jake for an extra invitation. At first, she thought that this could give them a position to catch Luna. Who would have known that it became such a huge issue that could be used against them instead? After the woman in the white dress received Willow's stern look, she turned as white as a sheet and was thinking about sneaking off while everyone was still in chaos. However, just as she was prepared to sneak off, she was noticed and caught by Zhao Haisheng. Hey, you! Where are you running away to? How dare you run off after pushing someone over? I didn't push her. Lucy shrieked. Ling Fei caught her by the wrist too. Everyone saw you. How dare you act dumb? As she was denounced loudly by Zhao Haisheng and his wife, everyone else started to turn their attention to her too. Benjamin immediately called for the crowd to hold the woman down and not let her escape. Willow had no choice but to force herself to say, Uncle Stu, Lucy is my sister. What happened earlier is a misunderstanding. Benjamin had seen for himself earlier that this girl had pushed the person in, so he looked solemn and said firmly, no matter what happens, we must wait until the person is rescued before further discussion. This lady cannot leave yet. In a corner, an indistinct coldness flashed across Jake's eyes when he saw Willow's nervous expression. The security team entered the water one after another and used their super strong flashlights to search for those who had gone into the water. Right at that moment, Theo finally came up to the shore and in his arms, he carried Luna who was heaving her last gasps. Chapter 1108. When Margaret saw the woman in Theo's arms, it was as she had predicted. It was really Luna. No wonder her son had jumped in so quickly. But why would Luna and Willow's relatives argue and have a fight to the point that the former was pushed into the water? Move! Theo ordered the guests who blocked his way. With the girl in his embrace, he walked quickly towards the door. An hour later, in one of Imperial's high-class private hospitals, which was under the Goldberg Corporation, to cooperate with his wife's performance, Theo had called up the hospital beforehand, so Luna had been immediately wheeled into the emergency ward. In the corridor, all the elders, Matthew, Margaret, Thomas, and Benjamin were present. Apart from that, Willow and Jake were there too. On the bench in the corner sat the girl who had pushed Luna over earlier, shivering coldly. Not too far away, the sound of footsteps approached them. A few of the uniformed public security personnel walked over and greeted Benjamin, Minister Stu. Benjamin quickly exchanged some polite greetings with them. When Thomas saw that Benjamin had actually called the police over, he immediately looked serious. Minister Stu, it's just a squabble between the young ones. Do we have to trouble our friends from the police station for such a petty quarrel? Willow echoed, today is Uncle Benjamin's birthday. It might not look good to cause such a commotion. We can just privately resolve this matter. Later, I'll have Lucy apologize to Luna. Willow looked to Jake for help. He seemed absent-minded since the incident, but when he noticed Willow's silent cry for help to say a few words to back her up, he frowned and looked at the red light of the emergency ward worriedly, not bothering to say anything in the end. Matthew contemplated for a moment before saying, "Old Benjamin, let's not make this a huge matter. If the child is all right, we can just do this privately." Thomas immediately echoed after Matthew, "She's just a drowned rat and should be fine. This small matter really doesn't need such large forces." He indirectly implied that Benjamin was blowing a small issue out of proportion. Little did they realize that if the person lying in the emergency ward had been Lucy as a result of being pushed over by Luna, he would have caused an enormous ruckus and Luna would not be able to get away. He had even planned to drag Lucy's unreasonable relatives to come over for a fight. When Benjamin heard his two friends' advice, he started to be swayed. However, at that moment, the door of the emergency ward was suddenly pushed open and a nurse rushed out from inside. "Which one of you is the patient's family?" The patient's heart has suddenly stopped. "We need a signature for the notice of her critical condition." The moment the nurse called out for the signature, the entire corridor fell into a dead silence. Willow and Thomas looked at each other in horror. It had just been a case of near drowning and Theo had immediately jumped in to save her. How could it be this severe? "I am." Theo, who had kept silent all the while, stood up to take the document from the nurse and sign his name. Then, Theo's extremely chilly eyes swept across Thomas and Willow. In a cool voice, he said, "Intentional murder. Does this look petty to you?" When they saw that the acknowledgement document had been signed and the fact that this girl was Theo's girlfriend, Benjamin knew that he could not take this lightly, so he did not hesitate further and immediately told the policeman in front of him, "Xiao Chen, take her away." Chapter 1109. Then, one of them walked over and cuffed Lucy's hands. Lucy immediately looked in alarm towards Thomas and Willow. "Willow, Uncle Thomas. Save me, I didn't push her. She fell over herself. I really didn't push her." Nevertheless, the few people who were in the corridor, including Willow and Thomas, had all seen her push Luna in herself. How could they believe her words? Margaret frowned unhappily. How could the Kingston family have such an evil relative? Even though she had not always been very fond of Luna, she had not gone the point of wanting her to die. Now, the person who had pushed Luna into the pond was someone from the Kingston family, so she could not help but overthink with endless what-ifs. Thomas had wanted to say more, but Benjamin immediately apologized, "I'm sorry, Bro Roy. This matter has seriously gone overboard. The victim's life is still hanging precariously and there were so many guests in my home earlier including important people from the government. To have such a thing happening under other people's watchful eyes, I must give everyone a proper explanation." Thomas stood there stiffly. He could not even say anything else. These words should have been his, yet it had now become all the reasons for landing the blame on him. "Uncle Thomas, save me. Uncle Thomas. I really didn't push her." The girl in white dress screamed as she was taken away by the police. Thomas stood in the same spot with a darkened expression. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was weird. What had happened? Their plan was clearly flawless. How did the person who fell into the water become Luna in the end? Could it be that when Lucy was executing the plan, she had missed and accidentally pushed her over? She could not achieve anything but had ruined things instead. Lucy has no hatred for Luna. How could she have planned to murder her? This doesn't even make sense. Willow quickly exclaimed. It really doesn't make sense, so she must have been instructed to do so by someone. I believe the police will find out the real culprit soon. With just that single sentence, Theo had immediately pointed the arrow at the Kingstons. Willow did not think that she would have fallen into the trap as all color was drained from her face. If Lucy had really ratted them out, it would all be over. Even if their initial plan was not intentional murder but to frame Luna, if they were found out, it would not make much of a difference. The emergency ward light stayed on. In the corridor, everyone had different thoughts racing through their minds. The phone in Theo's pocket vibrated. A message had been sent over, "Baby, to make it look real, you must act sadder. I'll teach you. Imagine how you'd feel if your wife died." When he read Luna's message, Theo's face was immediately as black as the bottom of a pot. This girl. Why did she casually throw such words around? Theo's acting was already not bad, but with this message from Luna, he looked even more terrible. The expression on his face was definitely not too far from having a dead wife. Willow had a glimmer of suspicion that something was amiss, but once she saw Theo's expression, she thought it was not quite possible. They never would have thought that while they tried to frame Luna, they had been tricked by her instead. In fact, Theo had cooperated with his performance from the start till the end to help her trap someone else. Although this time, Luna decided to screw them over all the way, she never would have thought that she did miss out on one crucial thing. The elevator doors opened. At the end of the corridor, someone was running towards the emergency ward. In their arms was a little bun. Chapter 11:10. What's happening? How's sister-in-law? She was just attending a banquet. How did she fall into the water? Cleo carried little Treasure and panted as he asked loudly. When Margaret saw that Cleo had brought little Treasure over as well, her expression changed instantly. Why were you here? And you even brought little Treasure to such a place? Matthew asserted, this is nonsense. Quickly take little Treasure home. The hospital is filled with bad vibes and viruses. Cleo wiped off the sweat from his brow. I was just taking care of the child obediently at home. But I suddenly received the news that sister-in-law had been pushed into the water, so I rushed over. Little Treasure heard my call and said that he had to come with me. I didn't have a choice. I could only bring him with me. As he said this, Little Treasure's eyes stayed fixated in the direction of the emergency ward. He started to struggle violently in Cleo's arms, shouting unintelligibly in a raspy voice. Cleo could only put down the little guy. The moment Little Treasure was put on the ground, he sprinted towards the emergency ward. As he stared at the huge, white doors that were shut tight and at the striking red light above his head, the little bun's face turned pale and his little body shook hard. Then, he suddenly started to shout piercingly, "Ah! Ah! Ah!" As he shouted, he pounded hard on the operating theater doors. This child's emotional actions frightened everyone. Margaret quickly ran over and hugged her dear grandchild in her arms, trying to soothe him. Little Treasure, don't worry. It's okay. The doctor is inside. Your Auntie Luna will come out soon. Don't be scared. Matthew quickly consoled him too. Little Treasure, don't be scared, grandfather is here. I'll definitely have doctors heal your Auntie Luna. Let's go home first, okay? You'll disturb the doctors at work here. However, Little Treasure could not hear the voices around him anymore, sinking deeper into his own bubble. He continued to lose control, yet he did not stop even when his voice was hoarse. He shouted and used his little hands to hammer on the door with all his strength. His eyes were filled with fear and worry. Everyone could not help but be moved. Benjamin was already blaming himself profusely. Luna had met with trouble at his place, after all, so he had to bear the blame. Jake's body shook as he almost could not stand upright anymore. The second time, this was the second time. He had given that woman's invitation to Willow. He was the one who had extended it to her. How could this be? Sister-in-law was still sending me messages earlier about cute koi fishes. How could she suddenly be dying so soon? Cleo's shoulders shook as he almost started sobbing with Little Treasure too. The situation was chaotic. As Theo's watched this uncontrollable scene from the side, he felt a headache coming. He never would have thought that Cleo would bring Little Treasure over. The soundproofing of the emergency ward was so good that Luna did not know what was happening outside at all. However, Luna would never let Little Treasure be sad for a single second, even if she had to stop her plan midway. Theo thought about it and was prepared to carry his son elsewhere, then secretly tell him the truth. It was all they could do. Theo decided to do so, then walked over to his son. Little Treasure, calm down. Listen to me, you're... But before Theo could continue to speak, Little Treasure had bitten the back of his hand and pushed him away hard. He shot his father a dirty look with his pair of fearful and angry eyes, akin to a little beast that was hurt. He stared at him and then glared at everyone else as he shouted at the top of his lungs, "Mommy! I want mommy. I want mommy. Chapter 11:11. In the empty corridor, that mournful sound of the child shouting, "Mommy," over and over again stunned Theo, Cleo, Margaret, and Matthew. Little Treasure had spoken. He had called out for mommy. Theo's first reaction was to press a few buttons on his phone without a change in expression. Then, the doors of the emergency ward were pushed open and a doctor in a white coat walked out. "One of the patient's family members, please come in. Maybe you could awaken the patient's drive to survive." Little Treasure. "Doctor. Let Little Treasure go in." Cleo immediately pleaded. The doctor quickly pulled Little Treasure by the hand into the ward. The door closed again and the corridor returned to silence. At this moment, in the emergency ward, there was actually one more hidden room inside and Luna lay there to sleep. Suddenly, the door was flung open from the outside. Luna thought that the doctor had something to say to her, but what met her eyes was the doctor leading Little Treasure in with the little bun's eyes all red and full of tears. "Little Treasure?" Luna was surprised to see the little bun and she quickly climbed off the bed. Before she could even walk over, Little Treasure had let go of the doctor's hand and dashed over. He stuffed his face into his mother's embrace and started crying out loud in the next second. Before this, even if Little Treasure was upset, he would only use teary eyes to look at you. He had never cried this heartbrokenly before and Luna's clothes were drenched in no time. As she watched the little bun cry till he was out of breath and listened to his heart-wrenching crying, Luna's heart was about to crumble. At the same, she realized that she had forgotten about Little Treasure. Damn it, it must be that Cleo who had brought Little Treasure here. "Baby, don't cry. Baby, don't cry, okay? Look at mommy, aren't I just fine over here? I'm not missing an arm or a leg, I'm still jumping around and alive. I'm neither actually sick at all, nor am I hurt. I'm bluffing them. I didn't think that even my baby would be lied to too." Luna quickly explained to the little bun. The little bun lay in his mother's embrace while his little hand held on tightly to her clothes, unwilling to let go. His little shoulders still shook from crying a lot. "Mommy, mommy is bad. Yes, yes, yes. Mommy is bad. Mommy is the worst. It's all my fault. I should have told Little Treasure beforehand. At last, not only did I frighten the bad guys, I also actually frightened our Little Treasure too. Sorry. Sorry, sorry. Mommy is the worst, Mid-sentence, Luna suddenly realized something. Her eyes suddenly flew wide open and she stared hard at the little bun in her arms. Little bun, what did you just say? What did you say earlier? Quickly say it again. Quick. Was she experiencing an illusion? Did she really hear Little Treasure call her? Little Treasure looked up with a resentful little face and frowned at Luna unhappily. In a hoarse voice, he said, "Mommy is bad." When he finished, Luna hugged the little bun tightly in her arms and tears fell immediately. "Little Treasure called me mommy. Little Treasure actually called me mommy. The little bun said I'm bad. Oh. Little Treasure said mommy is bad. Oh my God. I'm really about to die from happiness." Chapter 11:12. It has been quite a few months since Little Treasure had last spoken, and in this period of time, Little Treasure had not said a single word. Even though she was anxious, she knew that she could not rush such things, so she had never forced the child to say anything. As time went on, she had long gotten used to communicating with Little Treasure using the writing board. So much so that most of the time, she could understand him just by Little Treasure's single glance. She did not even feel that Little Treasure was any different from other child. However, when her ears had clearly heard Little Treasure call her mommy, it felt like her chest was hit hard by something, making her breath get caught in her throat. Warmth flooded from her heart to every inch of her body. There was an indescribable, magical feeling. She hugged the little bun tightly and actually felt that her intimacy with this child was as a matter of bones and blood as if they had never separated, that they were originally one. "Miss Brow," CEO Theo asks, "if you can go out now?" The nurse called out in a gentle voice at the door. Even though Luna wanted to stay with the little bun a while longer, she had to finish this show, so she quickly calmed herself down and replied, "Sure." Then, Luna wiped away the little bun's tears as her eyes lit up and she said word by word, "Little treasure, don't worry. I will definitely become your mommy." The little bun nodded vigorously. The tears welled up in his eyes as he hugged his mother firmly. A few minutes later, the red light above the ward dimmed and the door was pushed open. Luna was wheeled out by a few doctors as the little bun followed her beside the wheelchair with tear stains on his face. Even though the little bun still looked pitiful, he seemed much better than earlier, so everyone guessed that Luna was probably all right now. Indeed, the doctor announced, the patient is no longer in critical condition. The moment he said that, everyone present breathed a huge sigh of relief. Indeed, my little treasure is most useful. Cleo was very emotional. Margaret and Matthew shared a look of relief too. When they had seen little treasure earlier, they were not sure what would happen to him if something had really happened to this woman. As much as they did not like her, they could not deny that little treasure really could not lose her. Willow's body trembled and there was darkness in her eyes. The situation had already reached this stage. It would actually be better if the woman had just died, yet she had not. Not only that, little treasure's call for "mommy" earlier had actually moved Margaret and Matthew. The situation was getting increasingly worse. In a secluded corridor of the hospital, Jake looked like he was struggling. At last, he could not help but ask, "Willow, was what happened today purely an accident?" Willow was already distraught with anxiety. When she heard Jake, she looked even more troubled. "Jake, what are you trying to say?" "Under everyone's watchful eyes, I wouldn't be able to get off the hook if I did anything. And Lucy is my distant relative too, so how could I have directed her to murder Luna in broad daylight? Do you think I'm that stupid?" Jake knew that it was impossible for Willow to do that, but he still felt that this situation was odd and too much of a coincidence. "But we have seen the CCTV earlier. The entire thing started with Lucy provoking Luna first. All was okay before that. Why would she suddenly be so aggressive?" Jake continued. Chapter 11:13. Willow's expression faltered, but she calmed down very quickly. "I'm in a bad mood these past few days. Lucy has been accompanying me all this while. Maybe I had a bit too much to drink and told her some things about Theo and me. She found out about Luna's existence and so she was probably taking it out on her as she felt that it was unfair to me. All of this was just an accident. Now, are you suspecting me? Suspecting that all of this was my instruction?" Jake watched Willow's hurt eyes blaze and he balled his hands into fists. "I'm sorry. Today, Luna had almost, I gave you that invitation. If Luna had really, well, I'd have to bear the blame too." Willow's expression softened and she walked to Jake to pull on his hand. "Jake, I'm sorry, I've involved you in all this, but all of this is my fault. It has nothing to do with you. You don't have to blame yourself." Jake watched the girl tug on his hand and looked down with struggle evident in his eyes. "Willow, can I really still trust you?" "Jake, what happened was really an accident, but Theo had called it intentional murder in the heat of the moment. That's too severe of an accusation. Jake, can you think of a solution for me? After all, Lucy only came to accompany me, and because of me, this misunderstanding happened. She's still so young. If she has a criminal record because of this, then her entire life will be ruined." Willow said worriedly. Now, the most important thing was to quickly get her out before Lucy ratted them out. However, the fate of her entire family was in their hands and they believed that she would not do such a stupid thing either, but still, just in case. When he saw Willow's worried expression, Jake did not obey as he used to. Before this, as long as it was her, he would help without hesitation. This time, he pinched the space between his brows and said instead, "I'm really sorry, I can't help you this time. You know how Theo is too, Luna almost died this time, so he won't let go of her easily. Now, even if it was me, on the police's end, I wouldn't be able to intervene. Then, what do we do?" Lucy was just here for a holiday and this happened. What do I tell her family? Willow buried her face in her hands and her body faltered. Everything that happened had been out of her control. Her emotional burden had long reached its limit. Jake quickly held her and consoled, Willow, don't be too worried. Thankfully, Luna is fine now. Plus, as you said, Lucy and Luna were just quarreling. She didn't have intentions to murder her. With the truth, the police won't make things hard for her after their investigation. Even if Theo has a strong influence, they can only sentence her to intentionally injuring someone. Willow held her forehead, her eyes aloof. Jake was right. There was no way Theo would let this go this time, so there was no use looking for anyone. There was only one other option. Late at night, at the guardhouse, Thomas had used all of his tricks, yet he could not bail Lucy out. He only managed to get a few minutes of time to speak to her. What actually happened? Tell me everything clearly. Guan Roy demanded with a gloomy expression. When he had replayed the CCTV footage many times, the footage clearly showed that she did push Luna into the water. There was no way of getting off the hook. Chapter 11:14. Lucy's figure was trembling slightly and her face was sickly pale as she held onto the metal bar and said emotionally, I've said it so many times. I didn't push her. I didn't. I was only jostling her slightly to force her to hit me. Even though my actions looked strong, I was really only shoving her lightly without using much force. It's her. She's framing me. She fell into the pond by herself. That witch is framing me. Uncle, believe me. What are you saying? Are you saying that Luna did this intentionally? Thomas immediately stood up. That's right, she's doing this on purpose. Lucy's tone was confident. You sure? Thomas frowned. I'm sure. Uncle Thomas, you saw for yourself. She was still quite a distance from the side of the shore, and I did not even use much force. There was no way she could have fallen in. Lucy solemnly vowed. When he heard this, Thomas's expression changed and he slowly sat back down on his chair dispiritedly. Damn it. How did this happen? That woman did this on purpose. Could she have long seen through their plan, so she decided to turn the tables on them to frame them? If that was the case, the emergency rescue after, the critical condition, what was all that about? Right, Theo. That private hospital was under the Goldberg Corporation and with Theo's single command, it would be beyond easy to perform an entire show. But would Theo really stoop to such a level for that woman? What made him even more shocked was that the woman had actually seen through his plan and even turned the tables on him. If that woman had really known it all, that would be bad. There was no way he could use arguing and accident to smooth this over. Uncle, I'm sorry, I really didn't know this accident would happen. Please give me another chance. Woo-woo can't wait any longer. Can you please just bank in some money to me? Lucy begged. Her son's surgery required a huge amount of money and his life was in Thomas's hands. If she ruined this, she could not imagine. Thomas shot Lucy a sideways look and there was something murderous in his eyes as he said, Don't worry, I'll take care of your son. The next morning, the sky had just turned to light when Little Treasure began to knock on his father's door. Quickly wake up. Little Treasure wants to visit Mommy in the hospital. Theo opened the door and looked at his son solemnly. Call father. Call me father, then I will bring you there. The little guy instantly revealed an expression of condescension. He turned his head away, then ran downstairs. I do not want father. I can take a cab by myself. When he saw his son's act of disdain, the corner of Theo's mouth helplessly curved up. After he washed up and was prepared to take Little Treasure to the hospital, Margaret, Matthew, and Cleo had come over too. All of them were immediately fixed onto Little Treasure. Little Treasure had spoken again yesterday. Including the first 2 times from before, this was his 3rd time. The 3 of them turned their gaze to Theo. Margaret pulled anxiously on his son. Theo, how did it go? Did Little Treasure say anything else after you guys came home last night? Last night, little treasure was asleep when we carried him back. Then, did he say anything else when he woke up this morning? Matthew questioned. No. Margaret and Matthew looked at each other, instantly filled with disappointment. This time, will he not speak for another few months again? Margaret was clearly a little disappointed. It's already very good progress, said Matthew in an attempt to console himself. Cleo squatted before the little bun. Little bun, call second uncle. Call me. Second uncle will give you candy. Chapter 11:15. Little treasure just ignored him. He turned away, prepared to bring his loving bento to mommy. Cleo scratched his head. It doesn't work. But don't be too disappointed, you guys, maybe sis-in-law has a way to make him speak again. Margaret and Matthew's eyes immediately lit up again when they heard this. Margaret quickly rushed, then, let's quickly visit Luna in the hospital. Cleo's mouth twitched. Ahem, Luna. This was his first time hearing his mother call Luna so intimately. Thus, the family of 5 rushed to the hospital to visit. The private hospital's facilities were very luxurious. Luna's ward was comparable to a presidential suite at a hotel with very warm and cozy interior decoration. It almost looked like she was here for a vacation and not for a hospital stay. The moment they walked in, they saw that Luna's face was pale with huge eye bags underneath her eyes. Theo's expression changed when he saw Luna like that because he could immediately tell whether she was faking it or not. He had already repeatedly reminded them to use the best for her stay. How did she turn this haggard in just one night? Little treasure. You're here. On the bed, Luna, who was initially staring blankly at the ceiling, immediately sprung up when she saw her baby little treasure. Her eyes shone so brightly and her face was full of energy, all her haggardness vanishing. When Theo saw her reaction, his face darkened. This girl. Could it be that after little treasure called her mommy, she had not slept for the whole night as a result of being too excited, so she looked that haggard now? The moment little treasure saw his mother, he swiftly ran over and shouted, Mommy. On the way there, it did not matter whether it was Margaret, Matthew, or Cleo. They could not make little treasure speak. The moment he saw Luna, he had unexpectedly opened up by himself, the 3 of their jaws falling open in shock. Luna, on the other hand, was ecstatically happy. She carried the little bun and said, Oh, I can finally confirm it. I wasn't experiencing any illusion last night. Baby really called me mommy. It made her excited yet worried and sleepless for the entire night. Now, she could finally feel assured. But she was still a little worried. Baby, can you call me one more time? Luna looked in anticipation. Matthew and Margaret could not help but hold their breaths to wait too. Mommy. Little treasure did not hesitate to call out again. Again. Mommy. Again. Mommy. Can you say it one last time? Little treasure scooted over and hugged his mother's neck tightly. There were remnants of fear and worry in his eyes from yesterday's shock and his voice was raspy, Mommy, don't leave little treasure alone. Luna's heart ached as she blamed herself. She carried the precious little guy in her arms. I never will. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, oh. Oh my God. Little treasure just said 8 words altogether. 8 words. Mother, did you hear that? Cleo gasped. When she saw this scene, Margaret could not help but tear up and she nodded. I did. Even Matthew felt rueful. Little treasure had spoken, he was really willing to speak. Now, could they finally be sure that he was all right now? Chapter 11:16. Luna looked at Margaret and Matthew. She knew that they cared about little treasure's condition too, so she pointed towards the vase beside her bed and asked gently, Little treasure, what's this? Little treasure looked at the direction Luna pointed at, then said with perfect diction, flower. What about this? Luna suppressed her excitement and held up an apple. Apple. This? Luna picked up the air conditioner remote control. Remote control. Luna continued to point at quite a few things and the little guy answered them all. Even though he had not spoken for a long time, his pronunciation was flawless. My baby is so smart. Luna praised him emotionally. The little bun shyly pursed his lips as he was praised by his mother, indicating that he was very happy. He then brought his bento over and said, "Mommy, eat." "Okay, thank you, baby. Mommy will finish it all." Margaret cried out in joy on the spot, "This is wonderful. Too wonderful." This time, little Treasure could really open up and speak. Initially, she had been worried that even if little Treasure opened up, he might have speaking difficulties as he had not spoken for a long time. Before this, Willow had mentioned introducing a teacher to help with little Treasure's language recovery, but by the looks of it now, there was no issue with his communication skills. Matthew looked at his dear grandson, feeling gratified. He seemed not to care even if his grandson had called Luna his mother. Well, something good had come out of this accident. Matthew lamented. Margaret shot him a look and lowered her voice to say, "What are you saying? I've told you long ago that this girl is a lucky star. Look what happened this time. Not only did she turn a misfortune into a blessing, she's even added blessings for our little Treasure." If it was not for the provocation of this incident, would little Treasure have properly opened up and spoken? Matthew looked at his wife. Because he was in a good mood, it was rare that he did not argue back. Little Treasure accompanied Luna for a little while more, but because he still had school, he had to go off with his grandparents and second uncle first. Theo stayed back to watch after Luna. When there was only Luna and Theo left in the ward, Luna finally could not control her excitement any longer. She instantly jumped up and down the bed and into Theo's lap. "Theo, did you hear that? Little Treasure called me mommy. So, you were so excited that you didn't sleep for the whole night?" The man asked unhappily as he carried her back onto the bed. Luna did not care that she was being reprimanded. She continued to be in her own world of excitement. "Little Treasure called me mommy, called me mommy. Ha 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 ha, I'm so happy." As he watched Luna go on like that, Theo had no doubts that she could be ecstatic for the whole day and not sleep. "I know, he called you mommy. I've already helped you record his voice earlier. Can you sleep soundly now?" "Ah. Really? My dear, you're so considerate. Quick, play it for me. Quickly." Luna rushed. Theo could only obey and open his phone's recorder to play the earlier recording. The moment he clicked play, the phone played little Treasure's baby voice. "Mommy." Luna immediately cradled Theo's phone in her arms like a baby. She played it over and over again, then she suddenly thought of something and mumbled, "Well, this time I'd really have to thank Thomas and Willow." Oh yes, what happened to Lucy? Chapter 11:17. The police are interrogating. There are no results as of yet. The Kingston must definitely have something to blackmail her with. It will be hard for her to rat them out, but there is one thing I'm curious about. If they really wanted to frame me, it wouldn't be enough for me to just push her into the pond, unless... "A life for a life," said Theo with squinted eyes. Luna's gaze changed to one of discovery. "That's right. Unless I accidentally killed her under everyone's watchful eyes. Huh, they have really put in there all this time, actually buying someone's life to frame me. Even if I could save her and she didn't die, I'm sure he would do something on the hospital's end with the determination to frame me for murder." When she thought of this, Luna continued, "I'm afraid that Thomas might kill Lucy to stop her from exposing them. The police has already delegated people to watch her 24 hours a day." At the same, in the Goldberg family's car, after they were sure that the little bun could really speak normally, Margaret, Matthew, and Cleo were all very excited. On the way to school, the three of them continued to think of ways to make little Treasure speak, especially Cleo. Sadly, after leaving the hospital, little Treasure clammed up when he was not before Luna, making Margaret and Matthew anxious. Cleo was using all of his ideas to tease little Treasure to speak. He imitated Luna and held up a doll to ask, "Little Treasure. What's this?" Little Treasure held his chin and looked out the window as if he had not heard him. Cleo held up a car fragrance bottle. Little treasure, what's this? Little treasure still did not react at all. Cleo tried again by picking up his phone. Little treasure, do you know what this thing is? Little treasure remained silent. Cleo pulled Margaret over. What about this? Do you know what this is? At last, even Margaret and Matthew felt Cleo was annoying. Margaret shouted, Cleo, stop disturbing little treasure. He's just beginning to speak again, don't wear him out. Matthew echoed, your mother is right. Cleo was speechless. Who can be tired from speaking? Don't you two want to hear little treasure speak? Don't you? Margaret and Matthew kept quiet. Of course, they did. Thus, Cleo did not give up and found an apple. Little treasure, what is this, what is this? Do you know? Do you? This time, little treasure finally moved his line of sight from outside the window to Cleo's face, then under his uncle's incredibly excited gaze, he said word for word with a poker expression, Second uncle, are you an idiot? The three of them were all speechless. A moment of silence later, Margaret and Matthew could not help but laugh out loud. Even the driver was having trouble holding back. The little master was too cute. Margaret was loving his baby grandson more and more. My little treasure is so smart. Matthew nodded. It's the grandson of the Goldberg family. Of course, he's quick-witted. Hey, how can you be like this? I'm still the son of the Goldberg family. This little punk just called me an idiot. Yet, you praise that he's quick-witted. Cleo protested in dissatisfaction. Why was it that when the sister-in-law showed him an apple, he would obediently say, apple? He, on the other hand, had received such a heartbreaking answer. Where was the justice in this? Margaret shot him a look. Little treasure called you second uncle earlier. Aren't you satisfied? I haven't even heard him call me grandmother till now. Matthew sighed, he didn't call his grandfather either. When Cleo heard this, he immediately chuckled through his tears excitedly. Right. He only called his mother. He didn't even call out for brother. Ha ha ha, little treasure addressed his second uncle. The second one he addressed is his second uncle. Ha ha ha, I must go and brag to brother. Chapter 11:18. A few days later, at a certain public figure's private gathering in Imperial. Inside the VIP room, there were hearty greetings of congratulations. A few men were fighting to clink glasses with Zhao Haisheng. Congratulations, CEO Zhao. There are 4 happy things in life: rain falling in times of great drought, meeting an old friend in a foreign land, your wedding night, and when one's name is bestowed with a title. You punk, you got 2 things in just a few days. You've married your wife and successfully inherited the company. Ha ha ha. Everyone is too courteous. I just have good luck. As he listened to the praises surrounding him, Zhao Haisheng drank up and replied humbly while smiling ear to ear. Well, don't let it be so good either. How did you actually hook up with the Goldberg Corporation? As we watched your company about to be taken over by that bastard son, Theo suddenly fell from the sky and threw money in the billions and helped you sit firmly in your CEO seat of the Zhao Corporation overnight. Exactly. My eyes were about to roll out watching all that happen. Hey, let's be serious. How did you get Theo to help you? Are you two usually so close? Inside the room, everyone asked one question after another and Zhao Haisheng waved. All of you praise me too highly. I just followed Jake to climb a mountain and all, but I didn't say anything to him. Don't even talk about you, even I'm confused. Not only did I not befriend CEO Goldberg, the 2 of our companies have no business dealings at all. I still don't know why he would help me. Pfft, that's enough. Don't pretend and all that tosh after getting the advantages. Ha 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 ha, then it must be because CEO Goldberg admires my talents, so he decided to help me out. This is called personal charm. The room was a frenzied buffoonery, yet in a corner, Jake's mouth twitched as he sipped on his drink when he heard Zhao Haisheng's conversation with those guys. Personal charm? Talents? Talents, my ass. However, this little punk Zhao Haisheng had really been lucky. Others may not know, but he did. Theo had only helped Zhao Haisheng because Zhao Haisheng and his wife had stopped Lucy and not let her escape. Zhao Haisheng would probably never have guessed that his casual act would have received such a return of favor from Theo. Oh yes, a few days ago, someone almost died at Jake's father's banquet. Did you guys hear about that? Someone in the room suddenly asked in a lowered voice. Really? No wonder Jake has been unhappy and hid in the corner to drink. Then, what happened after? After that, I heard that person who pushed the person into the pond died in the police station. What? How did he or she die? It seems like he or she had accidentally been in contact with some oversensitive thing and died. Zhao Haisheng had been there. He even knew that the person involved was Theo's girlfriend and that the person who pushed her was Willow's relative. There must be an even complicated situation behind all that, so he only listened to the others discuss it and did not say much himself. On the other hand, as Jake listened to the discussions around him, his hurting head now ached even more and felt like it was about to explode. In the next second, he suddenly kicked the coffee table, then walked right out of the room. Behind him was dead silence. They waited till Jake had walked away for a long time before another round of gossip began. Chapter 11:19. Jake braced his exploding head and drove aimlessly on the empty road. That was right. Lucy had died. Willow's explanation to him was that Lucy was allergic to peanuts. Apparently, she had accidentally eaten a peanut-based product and died. From a medical perspective, there was nothing odd about it. However, Lucy had died at such a chaotic time. How could he believe that this incident was a coincidence from the start to the end? In denial, he did not even want to think that within all of this happening, Willow had really done something. To his impression, he was so comfortable and at ease with her. How could she do something against her principles for a personal vendetta? Jake had continued to make excuses for her. Before this, her father had investigated Ning Shi himself. This time, it must have been her father again, yet she knew nothing. Jake felt like his mind was about to split into half. One half of him believed her, and the other half was suspicious of her. Unknowingly, he had driven to a row of small houses, then he walked muddle-headed towards one of the old houses. He stumbled in front of the door and started to knock hard on it. At the door, there was a sound of rushed footsteps before a girl in her sleeping gown and a carelessly thrown-on coat opened the door swiftly with a shocked expression. Her eyes sparkled in a pleasant surprise. Jake. In this dense and stifling night, the girl stood at the door akin to the sincerity and elegance of a lily, emitting an aura that made one feel incredibly comfortable and relaxed. Jake felt like he was a traveler in the wilderness in the dead of the night and that he had finally returned home. Because he had suddenly relaxed, he lost every ounce of strength he had and just slumped to the front. Ah! The girl shouted, then quickly hurled out her arms to help him up, but she really could not hold his weight. At last, the two of them fell together onto the floor. Before the man's head could hit the ground, the girl had used the back of her hand to cushion his head. The impact on her hand almost pushed her to tears. She looked panicked as she asked, "Are you okay? Did the fall hurt? Quickly get up." The girl spoke as she tried to help him up. Jake was delirious as he looked at the girl's face. He was being propped up halfway when he suddenly used his strength to push the girl down and started a heated kiss. One kiss after another fell hotly on her lips, collarbone, shoulders. The girl tried her best to push him away, but he was too strong, and he was drunk. One of his legs pressed against her knee and his palms locked her arms above her head, easily making her immobile. She could only let him slowly devour her skin and brush aside the collar of her sleeping gown. He continued to kiss her all the way down. At the CEO's office of the Goldberg Corporation. "Chairman Thomas, you cannot go in. The CEO is not receiving guests right now." "Chairman Thomas. Thomas ignored the secretary's feeble warnings and pushed open the door to the CEO's office. "Theo." Before the wide desk, the man looked up from his pile of documents and at his secretary. The secretary immediately walked out nervously and shut the office door. Theo, what is the meaning of this? Thomas threw the newspaper harshly before him. Chapter 11:20. The headline of the finance section in the papers showed the Goldberg Corporation and Zhao Corporation's latest proposal for collaboration. However, the collaboration was meant to be between the Kingston and the Goldberg instead. I've discussed this collaboration with your father, yet you've disregarded that and signed it with the Zhao family. Don't you think I deserve an explanation? Thomas's words were intense as he interrogated. Theo looked plainly at the man. Chairman Kingston, you don't seem to have understood who makes the decisions for the Goldberg family now. You. Thomas could not say a word. Imperial was Theo's turf. They needed to establish themselves, so they had to go through the Goldberg family to do so, but Theo now called the shots. Thomas could only suppress his anger and calm down to persuade patiently, Theo, I don't know if that woman has said anything to you, but the truth is before you. What happened the last time was clear. It was just a common quarrel that caused the accident. Not only that, Lucy has already paid the price with her life for it, isn't that enough? The moment Thomas finished, a dim light flashed across Theo's cold eyes. Not too long ago, he had received a phone call from the police station that Lucy was dead. The cause of death was a sudden heart attack. Thomas was lucky. He had asked people to watch her 24 hours a day and there was no way they could do anything, but Lucy was probably too pressured and had died as a result in the police station. Dead men tell no tales. The Kingston family could explain it however they wanted. It was also because of this that Thomas came here to interrogate him without holding back. What intentional murder? All of that was complete nonsense. You've used this baseless accusation to ruin the friendship between our families without any evidence. Theo, you'd better think over clearly. Thomas's tone came threateningly. Theo looked at the man before him without any expression and he said slowly, Whoever said that I needed evidence? Who said that I needed evidence to cut off that collaboration? Did he need a reason to let his wife vent her anger? Thomas was really incensed now. You fail to understand what's wrong or right just for a woman. You've really been muddle-headed by that woman's charm. One day, you'll regret this. Thomas had rushed over in anger and left even more furious. After he left the Goldberg Corporation building, he made his way straight to the Goldberg family's old residence, yet when he arrived, he was told that Matthew was at Platinum Palace. So, Thomas made his way to Platinum Palace. When Thomas arrived, Little Treasure was in the building behind learning from Song Jin and Matthew was observing on the side. Once in a while, he would chat to Song Jin about some insights or interesting anecdotes about Little Treasure. The atmosphere was incredibly harmonious. When he heard the maid announce that Thomas had found his way over, Matthew was quite unhappy as it would disturb his quality time with his grandson. Elder Song, I have a guest. Excuse me for I must leave. Helpless, Matthew could only inform Song Jin before making his way to receive Thomas in the living room. Bro Thomas, what wind has blown you over here? Why didn't you inform me beforehand that you were coming? Matthew walked over courteously to greet him. I couldn't contact your phone, Thomas replied. When Matthew heard this, he quickly said, Sigh, look at my memory. I was accompanying my grandson practicing his painting earlier, so I switched off my phone, I'm really sorry.